So we're back at the Mother Tree Network with our special guest, Laura Hartley. And Laura, I just asked you a big old question about hopeism, toxic positivity. How do we make doing social justice work delightful? Tell me what you're thinking.
Oh, I mean, I love this question, and it's such a big question. You know, I don't think it has to be bypassy. Like, I want to say that. I do think love can be an incredible foundation for activism, but I think we have a very poor understanding a lot of the time of what love is and of what hope is and of what, positivity in its best sense actually can be. When I talk about hope, I often define hope as the willingness to live in a story that is not yet complete. And that is true. That is what we're all living in. The story of the world is not over. The story of our lives is not over. We have the potential all of the time, even when the opportunities or the options seem a little bit limited. That story is not yet done. So, how can we start to recognize that? And what possibility does that open up within us? When we're looking at love, I think, as a foundation for change making, I think we need to start to have a much deeper understanding of what accountability looks like and what accountability could look like without the paradigm of punishment or the paradigm of domination. These are things that I think are very possible, we're just not skilled in. And so I think the work of our lives and the work of justice in these times is starting in our own lives, our own bodies, to experiment with these ideas. But I don't believe that our feeling bad can really take us someplace good just for the sake of it. I think we have such a beautiful short time on this earth. There's the Oliver Berkman book, the title 4,000 Weeks is the length of an average life. That is so short when you think about that,
Wow, 4,000 weeks. That's all we
right?
get.
Yeah,
Wow.
4,000 weeks.
And some of us don't get
Like, we
that,
gotta,
clearly.
right? And so, like, we have to be thinking, well, how do I want to spend this beautiful, precious, finite time that I have? And if I can seed a little bit more joy, a little bit more beauty, a little bit more love, then I think that's a beautiful thing.
Mm, mm, mm. Um, hmm. Wow, that 4,000 weeks just caught me. The whole uh,
Right? Because it's so
how
short when you
short it
think about it
is
from
in
that.
reality. I was listening to this person who had a near death experience, and what he came and basically based on this interview, I'm like, oh my God, death is not bad. Death is not bad. And also, I kind of feel, and I'm just going to be, this is what I know right now. This is not the truth, everybody. Okay. So with that caveat being said, okay, I'm thinking like, how interesting if death is not bad, if it's not the worst thing that could ever happen to you or to someone else, what does that change? That's a big thing. We usually think death is the worst thing that could happen to someone that we love or to someone who we don't know, but we don't want them to die because we're
You
like,
know,
that's the worst thing.
that is a liberatory question right there. And I really want to say that because, like, with that question, I immediately felt like this little bit of opening, this little bit of expansion, because you're right, like, oh, okay, that's an interesting perspective.
What if it's not the worst thing? What if in fact when we die, we get to, have these experiences where we see where we went wrong or we have some regrets, but we get to be welcomed by the ancestors. We get absorbed back into the oneness. I feel like part of colonization has been the idea that you get one life and you blow it and you go to hell and you do good, or you do good as according to whoever the authorities are that define good, you get to go to heaven and you just stop evolving.
Right?
That
It's just end
isn't
place.
right. And isn't that like that's also part of this binary framework? That's deep colonization. When you think that, there's life or there's death, and after death there's, hell or heaven. That's deep colonization.
Mm.
And this whole idea of multiple lifetimes, of contracts, of multiple dimensions being lived simultaneously, this, I wonder how that would affect how we look at social justice, our time frame for it, who we see as victims, who we see as oppressors, how we see ourselves inside the stories that we're telling.
Oh, I think, it reminds me of something that I used to talk about when I first started kind of teaching around burnout for change makers. When I started this work, um, I was working with a lot of people in the climate space. There was huge amounts of burnout and exhaustion, the same kind of thing we spoke about. Join a movement, get really engaged, and then within a year or so, burnout, exhaustion. And with that also came a sense of hopelessness, doomism. What are we supposed to do? The powers are so big. And one of the things that I felt at the time that needed to be changed was that our work needed to be placed into a larger context, into a larger tapestry of change, that it wasn't just our job to do all of the work. It wasn't the weight of the world on our shoulders, but it was our job to do some of the work. It was our job to show up for the things that we felt called to show up for in the ways that we had capacity and energy and love to show up for. And so understanding, I think, that there will be, and when I say not just a larger tapestry, I mean a larger tapestry of lifetimes, right? There are ancestors for our movements who came long before us. There are people who are yet to be born who are going to be continuing this work, because all of this work is a living embodiment. It's not a one and done, fixed, rigid place that we reach. And this as a mindset is something that I think we so need to kind of unpack. I think a lot of the time we're taught in life that if you follow the right steps, do the right thing, eventually you're going to reach this place. And this place, it might be retirement, whatever it's called. It might be, the top job, but you're going to be happy there. And it's the place, right? Same thing with heaven. You do the right things you're supposed to do in life, you're going to reach the place. The place doesn't exist, right? The place is only ever right here, right now.
Mm,
So how are we kind of recognizing of that and taking that, what I think is a lot of pressure as well,
mm,
off of our shoulders, and like, well, no, how do I fit inside a tapestry?
mm,
What's mine to weave? What's mine to seed?
mm,
Right? That's where our energy lies. That's where we have to do the work,
mm,
not in all of the places that the world is screaming at us that you need to do this and you need to do this and you need to do this. It's only ever right here. It's
mm.
only ever in communion with our own hearts.
So, Laura, so you are in a white female body, right? Okay. So one of the things that that really in the 2020, 2021, there was a lot of, and even now I've seen it, a lot of how would I call it? I'm just gonna call it what I see it. Condemnation, like, okay, white women need to do this, or white women are like this. So, and you just said something about checking with your heart, your body, your system. Where are you called? And then you have people say, well, you need to be over here, and when you over here, you do this. So tell me how you dealt with that, or how you still deal with it, if it's what you're still dealing with.
Oh gosh. It is actually something I'm still dealing with. Even in the world as it is, in the last few months, I've had, emails and comments saying, you use this word over here and like, shouldn't use this, or somebody over here is saying, well, you're not talking about this and you should be talking about it. It is still very real.
Mm-hmm.
I think each of us, if we are committed to collective liberation, has a responsibility to our own unlearning.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think that is true. I think our unlearning will look different for everyone. And I do think it is unlearning, because we've all been born into this world. We've all been taught these various systems. And depending on our identity, we all have different perceptions and different internalizations of them.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the world that we're in.
Mm-hmm.
That is a responsibility that I think is also sacred in nature, and that I think is part of our own spiritual unfolding. But I think the more that we are able to connect with what is true for us, to connect with our bodies, to connect with our heart, to kind of drop into this moment, it is again that cognizance that while I am responsible for my own unlearning, I cannot be responsible for every action that I could possibly take in this world without burning out. Right? I
Mm,
have to also honor myself in this. I have to honor my own boundaries, honor my own capacity, honor again, the places that I feel called to work, because so much in this world does need to change. Okay. We need we need racial justice, we need climate justice, but we need people also working with our food systems, working with our education, working, in accounting, and the legal spheres, like so many places. We can't do all of it. We can only do what we can do right now. And that's probably not going to be perfect or good enough for absolutely everyone. We should listen to those calls, and we should really consider in ourselves what truth they might hold,
mm,
what wisdom they might hold. But then it's that cognizance there. I
mhm,
can do my work, but I can't do all of the work.
mm, mhm, mhm. Ashe. So one of the things I want to end this conversation, well, let me just say not end it because that sounds like we'll never talk again. But one of the things I'd love to hear you speak to, because you've talked about regenerating um, quite a bit in this conversation, and in the Mother Tree Network, one of the things that we're really committed to is regenerating with the earth and working with certain principles that you can see the earth working with and producing and circulating as a model or a guide, as a way to, check in to see if we want to do that kind of thing. So tell me, is there a principle or a facet of regeneration that you like to do?
Oh, I'd love this. I don't know if this will answer the question exactly, but I
Mm-hmm.
think there's two areas that kind of come to mind. For one, I think, again, when I look at this idea of, well, if self and world are a mirror, which is something that I talk about a lot, that
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the ways in which we treat ourselves, a lot of the ways in which we act in our personal lives or in our inner work is mirrored in the toxic systems of the world. That I wonder if there's another mirror, or not a mirror, but guidance that we could find in the natural world instead. So it's that pivot point that is somewhere we can always redirect. And while there's not a specific practice or a specific principle um, that I necessarily would return to, although I think the idea of fractals and the idea of, these kind of mimicking patterns that ripple out is so powerful. I think for me, my practice is just returning to the water. I am a water baby. Anywhere that I am near the ocean, anywhere that I am near a lake, anywhere that I'm near a body of water, I have a spaciousness that can arise. I no longer feel the need to have to do everything. I think that's what it is. I think that's what it teaches me. That I can just be here. This is enough. Where we are is enough. And that from the enoughness, you will find what it is to do. It's not from the place of depletion and scarcity and urgency and hustle culture and the trying desperately to fill the well of doing that will ever get there. The enoughness has to come first, and I think that's what nature teaches me.
Mm, that is profound. That is so timely right now in my own life work. That I had a call the other day with my coach for my business, and she said sometimes the only thing you know is that you're tired. You can't tell people when you will offer the next thing. All you because from tired, you really can't create. I mean, you could force something, but you cannot generate what is in the flow. So what you said about coming from depletion, you have to get to enoughness. And then, okay, where am I called? Where is the flow? Where is the energy now? So
Yeah, and what are the conditions that we need to thrive as well? When we look at, any if we were growing something in our garden and it wasn't growing, we would never look at it and be like, something wrong with you, just try harder. Oh my God, like the kale's doing fine. Why aren't you? Just push through, get it together. No, you would look instead to like the soil and the sunlight and the rain and the nutrients and all of these different dimensions that help something to naturally thrive when it has the right conditions. And this is the same for everything we're trying to do in this world. What are the conditions that we need for this to arise? Okay, because it won't be born out of anything else.
Mm. So, Laura, if people want to get in touch with you, if they want to, I don't know, follow these ideas a little bit more closely, how do you recommend they get in touch with you?
My website is laurahartley.com. I have a newsletter that goes out every week or ish, weekly-ish, that you can sign up to on there. My Instagram is at laura.h.hartley, and I'm also on LinkedIn if that's your space.
Mm, beautiful. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Oh, thank you for having me. I've loved this conversation, so thank you.
All right, y'all. We'll see you on the next time.